Merry holiday, that's all I can.
Yeah.
Sit back row like this moving.
Yep.
Did I tell you the chickadees found my little cup?
Check and see if it's true.
Oh, yes.
Okay. No, I'm texting with Tammy and Darlene before I have one right now. Go back up there, just now. Minutes ago. We decided on the size. I said, I just need a model of the spec sheet and all that stuff. I want to get the street.
It's really quiet here. Gosh. What? I don't care. It's still really quiet in here. There was no crunchy on the edge. It was all bad.
I did that.
It was all bad.
I was gonna walk to
You have to, it's something, but you don't have to.
yeah, I did, I just didn't have it sometimes. And I don't think she was.
Not be any good there. Ask my broken wrist from last year, right? I haven't taken 12.
2026.
No. And your neighbors coming up, they're all called out, or your neighbors that were all called out, are they coming up?
Some of their salaries come out of their house.
Yeah.
You put their salary. You don't say, you call it, it's like, oh,
From the wedding, probably. It's really weird this year with weather has done this stuff. My covered gutters, the covers are coming off, and I've had those things for 10 years, and they've never.
Well, you have a sign on 75, tell you there's a new cameras or 13 or something. I saw 2 of those, just ripped from them. It's terrible to come back.
She's doing better. She's over the COVID now. Yeah, she's doing better. Now, still dealing with the back issues. 27. She's been having, first phase, there's 2 phases.
This would be a trifold.
It's not
I think that's.
Yeah.
It's a first picture, so they have a thing that will do the trifold. Would they do that here? Well, it's not like that. I don't think anybody else has it.
It's one entrance. She has the
I
first one,
did
and
something
then
in the township one time, and I was just making a photo.
the second one.
I was
Something.
it's a lot more.
So she's got a great understanding of the words.
Especially when I was just in there, probably, so, when I was trying to hold something.
So after
There was a couple of
phase
players
2,
playing with their logos,
hopefully
different, sort of like.
she's still covering. That's what we're hoping.
Yes. This lighter.
Better folding, so it'll be inside out.
Try.
That's what it is.
Hello? Hello.
Well, it was, and then if you don't talk, does it cut off? Oh. I turned it on 5 minutes ago.
Okay, it is January 13th, 2026. We'll call the sewer meeting to order. It is 6:04. Steve Corporan for Performance Engineering is here. We have a number of guests. Hi, welcome.
The report part will be fairly short tonight because there's not a lot going on with the weather. In December, Grand Traverse Construction finished up the work on the blower 3 addition and the water line, the 2-inch water line with the small hydrant. So they could actually wash down tanks and stuff like that, and they were out of the decant lines. That went well. Pay request for that work is on the agenda for tonight. Nobody else has done any work this period. They'll probably be starting up March-ish, depending on when the frost laws are anticipated to come off. They might start with some light stuff. Mats, when they're working on just the individual grinder pumps, they don't have to worry about the frost laws as much. Getting the equipment they'll be using isn't that big to get it here, but the mainline stuff for Walton They'll probably have to wait for frost laws to come off to work on that stuff. The focus has been a lot on getting caught up on the paperwork after the federal government shutdown, trying to get the contractors paid. USDA is all caught up on their payments. Township is still working on Eagle and EPA. EPA is almost caught up.
Tomorrow, you
Yeah.
should be able to submit.
Yeah, and then the one for tonight will go in next week, so EPA should be pretty much caught up. But we're still working on Eagle, been in back and forth dialogue with them, trying to get those resolved. We hope to have a package for the township soon for the original addition for the wastewater plant building, for the labs, remodel lab space, put in the cold storage space, put in the chem storage, reworking that. It's not going to be a huge project, but because it's federal BABA money, this is the bid specification package I've been working on for the last several days. It's maybe 10 pages shorter than the ones for the plant themselves and for the mainline sewer contracts, because it's one size fits all usually with the federal government. So all that's language, all those restrictions have to be in there. So this is fun stuff. But we're real close to having that ready to go. Trying to think, any questions on the status of things or how things are going? Like I said, it's been really quiet because nobody's working right now. Yes, ma'am.
I'm on Margaret Avenue on the west end.
Okay.
What phase do we call line of the world?
All right, so you're west of the intersection there of Doris and, okay, yeah. So anything south is phase 2, and that was broken up into 2 contracts. There's a gravity contract, which basically ends or starts, how we're gonna look at it, at that intersection. And then there's a low pressure sewer contract that is for the west end of Barbara and Sturgeon Island. Walton got both of those contracts though. They have not done any work on the low pressure sewer one. They were hoping to have their subcontractor get the mains drilled this fall. It just never worked out. Every time it looked like they were getting ready to mobilize and come on site, the weather was going to be crappy. Yeah, we'll do it next week, and it just snowballed. This was an early onset to the winter this year compared to the last 4 or 5. It's really, we haven't been froze out this early in the last 5 years. So
This is a little question. Where are we financially as it pertains to covering the bills for phase 2, whether it's the first part of phase 2 or my west end of phase 2?
the funding's all in place for all of it.
Okay. So even though I hear or read scuttlebutt on the smear world, out on social platforms,
Right.
there's money. out
Oh,
there.
yes, yeah.
Okay.
Do you have your 402 there?
Yeah, hang on, I'm grabbing real quick. For the federal government, we have to have what they call a 402-2 form, which is basically the spreadsheet that shows all the money. So this is the phase 2 one. Up there, it's got the big pot of money sits up here, and then these are all the different contracts. That's
Is that in the packet on the board?
No,
I'm just worried about-
no.
this is just the financial tracking we do. What you will see is when we're doing change orders or pay requests and stuff like that, you'll see the numbers in those. But this is one that just summarizes all of them. But Grand Traverse Construction's contract is this column. This is Walton Gravity, Walton Low Pressure Sewer. This is Performance Engineers, the Basic Engineering Services. This is Performance Engineers Inspection Services. This is administrative, lawyers, another lawyer one, another lawyer one. That.
Is that access to the public or just you?
I don't know.
I believe it's a working document that Performance Engineering uses. We use that to complete the forms that we have to submit to the state and federal government, to Eagle and EPA. We tie back all of our reporting to this, which Steve ties back to the invoices that are in the board packet every month?
It basically just tracks everything. It's a federal government form that we have to do. All the lawyer stuff and the admin stuff, that's mostly stuff that was done right at the very beginning, during the closing documents, all the stuff they had to do for writing up the assessment stuff, all of that. But for phase two, let's see. Yeah. So there was $6.95 million initially, and then the EPA did a supplemental grant of $1 million, so it's actually $7.95 million. That extra million right now is sitting, actually it didn't even fit on this page, it's on the next column over here. It's just kind of parked over here because we have no obligations have been made from that million yet.
So that money's still sitting there in the bank, so it's not being used for.
It sits at the feds, and then when they do a pay request, every month when they're working, Grant Evers Construction would have one, Walton would have one, Performance Engineers might have one, but all that stuff goes into a draw package that goes to initially the USDA because they're the lead agency. But there's also EPA money here. And I split out to make sure that the percentages are correct. And that goes to the USDA. They're the ones that actually review it, approve it, and then that approval, and then they cut their, or they send the funding to them for their part. And that, they're usually pretty quick about that, usually within a couple of days. And then the township cuts the checks for the USDA part. And then Trudy's been taking and doing the EPA part online, putting that in. And that's a little slower, especially with the government shutdown. And they had a changeover on who was doing it at the EPA level. USDA had a changeover too, but what was nice, that whole first year, the guy that retired had the other gal involved the whole time. I sent them to both of them, and he had kind of her doing it. So when he retired then, this last year, it was seamless when she took over it. That was really nice. EPA, the handoff wasn't as nice.
Oh, then, yeah, and then you add to that the supplemental $1 million grant that we requested that came in April of 2025. So it didn't change the program, but it changed the percentages. How big a bite each organization or entity or funding mechanism was going to take, okay? So.
And then we found out just last week.
Yeah.
The EPA was supposed to be 63, whatever.
95?
Yeah, it was 63.95%. EPA was going to pay until their 3.5 million ran out. And then USDA was the smaller portion of that. When they got this $1 million, well, when this is available, then that's going to change to go to 68.6. So we just assumed that meant when that money came in, then the split would change that month. And that's how I fill all the forms out. And then we found out just last week, oh, no. That's for the entire phase 2 project, including going back to the beginning. Well, when USDA did the closing the closing, we did $250,000 during the closing for all that initial stuff. That was all USDA. EPA now says, well, yeah, you should have split that too. Well, we didn't know that at the time. And so now we're behind. So this pay request, this is probably more than you guys really want to know, but I'm sorry if I'm boring you. So with this pay request, I put it all to EPA to try and catch up. And it's only getting us to 59.83%. And so I ran the numbers yesterday and figured out we're actually gonna have to put the next 925,000 to EPA just to get to 68.6%. And then we can go back to splitting it under this new percentage. That's gonna take months because there's no work going on right now.
Yeah.
So basically when Walton cranks up in the spring, EPA is gonna be paying the first couple of pay requests for them, 100% till we catch up. So, but all that money's there. It can't be spent on anything else. And if we tried, they'd catch us. You know.
So is that $1 million that was added, that were awarded in the spring, is that what some folks believe was for phase 3?
Yes.
Okay.
And I again, I'll go back to internally inheriting the different terminology. I refer to it in my mind, and I should put the maps up because I think that helps. When you think about phase one residential, so let's back up even further, 10, 12 years ago, 12, 13 years ago, we have the original business district, which I refer to as original business. That's the original sewer. Then we have from Columbus Beach up around the corner down to Devo Beach, what I refer to as phase one residential. And then from Devo Beach down your neck of the woods, all the way out to Sturgeon Island is phase two residential. And then add to the confusion that initially, this whole downtown area was one phase. And then the powers that be, the funding mechanism sources, advisors came in and said, you know what, we think you're going to do better at receiving funding from these different mechanisms if we split this. And it was split into phase one residential, phase two. So in that $1 million, if we recall, that was taken out of the wastewater treatment plant to help keep phase two within a certain budget. Okay, and if you recall, Mr. Kramer talked about the two debt assessments that were very close, within a few $100s. I think one is 17 and change and the other is just over 18. Okay, very close when you're talking $6.5 million, nearly $7 million. And that's true. So, but what we forget to remember is that these phases, these are collection systems. And these are great if you have a place for it all to go. We didn't have a place for it all to go. We have potentially 400 connections.
About 200 for phase one, and about 200 for phase two.
Right.
It's once, but
It's about,
it's about 400 total.
and we needed to expand our wastewater treatment plant, double that, to collect all that. Because what we also don't remember is in the winter months, Burt Lake State Park is not online. So for 5 months, from May-ish until October-ish, the park is adding to the mix quite a bit. We have commercial. We have these people coming on, and hopefully by fall, y'all will be coming on, okay? So we have to get the plant up and doubled in size. So really and truly, that $1 million that was clawed back to meet budget, and then we had to rewrite the grant, changing the scope, addressing the scope that this was in addition to what was already there through the EPA. The grant was awarded, and it had been congressionally earmarked. So it had been clawed out and was sitting there. And the EPA knew it. They had changeover. We had changeover. We were working together, Performance, Nico, Andrew at EPA, to get all the documentation into the EPA so that to go through the process to get the grant awarded, even though it had already been clawed out congressionally.
So what's that, I'm confused then completely. Is that $1 million really for phase two, or was it to aid in building the plant to scale?
It's to aid in building the plant. It includes.
There was an item in there
Mhm.
for a PER for phase three, so that's still pending.
What does that mean?
A preliminary engineering report. That's the first thing to go after the big pile of money to do phase three. You have to have a PER prepared and then submitted, to kind of prove that it's needed, prove that you can financially handle it, prove that you already done the stuff and you're financially managing well the rest of it. All that goes in, and then that's basically the whole lead for the start of the project.
So that PER, that $1 million that I'm supposed to be doing in May, that will eventually, hopefully, contribute to the aid of a phase three.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, because in there are 4 items without going and digging out the revised scope. So we have the addition to the building that we needed. We have, at that time, we had a screen in there, which has been probably 3 years now without a new screen out there. Which
It's got the telemetry
the telemetry.
for the lift stations and that. So
And the fourth item was the PER, which is, help me on the costs on that.
It was 35,000.
So it is, the PER, the preliminary engineering report, is a part of that.
Where are we with that?
Okay, so let's talk about how the process works. According to Steve Mann with the USDA, any wastewater treatment program, and it started here the same way, Vicki, and I think you were involved, Chris, probably that. We had CHIRP. It's a citizen-driven initiative, always more successful. There's two ways to have a wastewater treatment plant or a water system. You can have citizen-led initiative, which is what we have here, always more successful, according to Steve Mann. You can also have it township board or municipality-driven, which is highly unsuccessful. This community chose to have it be a citizen-led initiative. The area from Columbus Beach down to Sturgeon Island was determined to be the area, the target area. Committee was formed, questionnaires and/or petitions were taken out, showing yes, I'm interested, no, I'm not. Once you reach 50.1%, greater than 50.1% interest, then it becomes something that the community can pursue. That was achieved. And at that point, then I believe USDA, probably because they were the lead agency, came in and said, okay, this is a huge region. Let's break it up into two sections. You'll have a better opportunities for funding sources. So those are two mechanisms by which we can expand or initiate a wastewater treatment program.
And
Yes.
Wasn't there already a
Yes.
citizen?
Yes.
Yeah,
There was for phase one and phase two. Well, okay.
yeah, we signed something.
Well, what you signed was an interest survey, and I scanned a few of those and emailed them to Steve Mann some time ago, and then had many conversations with him. Those are not the legal petitions. He sent me, as he had sent to Bob sometime last year, the actual legal petition with very specific wording. And there is a section in there, and we can go back to phase one and phase two. We have to work with county to get the actual area off the GIS maps. And county provides to us the degree, it's a very legal, north 42 degrees by whatever, okay? And they walk you through it online. Those are the actual petitions. What we have found are what Steve Mann refers to as interest surveys. Very informal. Are you interested? There's no obligation. Yes, I am. No, I'm not. I want more information. Based on that, these actual legal petitions can go out. You have to have certain verbiage on there, including the area. You have to have who the petitioner is, who's taking these out and requesting signatures. Again, these interest surveys did not have that.
So how does one go about
Yeah, so
making
that was
that?
Well, there is a group, Bob and Patty Murdoch, and I think you were interested, sir.
I believe so.
Yep. I'll speak for them, which always is a little, I don't like to do that for people. They have expressed, and we've met a few times, an interest in trying to generate this. But I'll also tell you, we've met with Anna Schwab, and we have to get some, what she calls runs on the scoreboard. We have three big projects going right now. We've got the wastewater treatment plant. We have residential phase one, which is 99% completed, basically, except for small.
85 to 90. Yeah.
And then we have phase two residential, which has just nicely gotten started. We have no runs on the scoreboard yet. We need to finish something and show.
We're close though.
Yeah, we are. And prove that we are responsible with our funding to these agencies, because these are the same agencies that we are going to go to ask for help.
If you're just sitting on the $35,000 though, that's not very responsible. I'm
Well-
sure they want you to spend it to do the survey. That's why they put it in.
Well, we need the petitions first.
Okay,
You got the
so
money before you have to.
Yes, we did.
Well, we didn't physically get the money.
No, it's
Okay,
sitting
it's
at the EPA. You have to remember, the money doesn't, this is a reimbursement grant. So we have to spend the money first, the invoices in every board packet. We send those invoices along with the signed USDA, I can't think of the name, the form 44011, whatever it is, where we indicate how much of the invoices for that coverage period, which typically for us is a month, how much of that is USDA.
I would think if you're not spending the $35,000 that's allocated, that would indicate to them that you're not interested.
No, you're
We're not
wrong.
interested.
I'm sorry, but you're wrong. The interest comes through the legal petitions. We're waiting, and again, this is a citizen driven. So what we've encouraged Bob and Patty Murdoch, and they've expressed an interest in forming a committee similar to CHIRP. And I believe they were active in that. I don't know how active, but they're certainly very well versed in it. I've provided Patty with the legal petition, with the description of the area from the county, with emails between myself and Steve Mann. I mean, I can bring it to the board and we can try to jam it through, but it's highly unsuccessful. If we want this to be successful, which I think most of us do, we need to go about it with a citizen-led initiative, which is to form a committee, whether it's a resurrection of CHIRP, a different acronym for a group, and start pursuing that.
So you start pursuing that, and then in tandem, the sewer system grows.
Yes, when the PER is actually drafted and submitted, it'll perform a lot better. When you can see that, yeah, we've got these first 3 contracts under their belt, and they came in on or under budget, and things are working well. Performance engineers, when they did the PER for phase 1, which was split into phase 1 and phase 2 eventually, the township solicited for proposals to do that work. The EPA, with this $1 million, with the PER part of the tag there, had said that they want a new solicitation. They just can't award something to BEI right now, saying, hey, can you do a PER for phase 3? It has to be a solicitation that other people can submit proposals on. So that's something, once the petitions reach that 50.1% mark, then they can do that. They can release a request for proposals to do a PER for phase 3.
So does the county determine what area of the village?
No.
Can the citizens decide?
They just help define it.
The citizen, we've had a lot of feedback from people, and we can go any number of ways with this. Ultimately, again, according to Steve Mann with USDA, this collection system is owned by the township. So the township really needs to take a look at economies of scale. 200 seems to be a break-even point. So we look at areas where we can get as close to 200 as we can. It makes sense right now to start at Marineland, which is at the very north end there. I call them the finger canals up off Gratiot and Apple Blossom over in there, all the way down both sides of the river to Old Onaway Road, and then club down to Burger King. That's what makes sense. Now, keep in mind, some people will have other, I believe the residents along Club have opportunity to connect under Club Road to the main that is on the east side of Club Road, this side of Club Road. Okay, so again, whether we would need to include them or not, but as long as we're going to put the petitions out, what Steve said to me is, Trudy, you go for broke, you go big. Don't start with just 12 houses, because you're going to invest $35,000 in a PER and then have to do it again.
But I'm going back to that main, I'm going back to the main $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I understood tonight that we've already done a PER.
Mm-hmm. We have.
We haven't?
No,
Not for phase 3. We did it for,
But the most recent PER has demonstrated that we have the capacity to add a report. Or did I misunderstand?
yeah,
I'd have to pull it out and read it, to be
I don't know
honest with you.
if it explicitly says that, but that's how it was intended, that's how it was drafted. Was to make sure that it can be expanded component. I know when we built the surge tank as part of this phase 1 and phase 2 over there, that is going to make it easier to put the next phase equipment in, right on that tank. And when they did the original phase 0, whatever you want to call it, the rapid infiltration basins, which are basically the big ponds out there where the effluent from the plant seeps slowly down into the ground. They designed that big enough to take all of what we're doing right now. So there'll have to be a few more rapid infiltration basins constructed for a third phase. But there's room out there. As this project has gone over the years, they've always made sure that it's expandable, that we're not just doing it and then we'll figure it out later on the rest of the stuff.
Well, people look to buddy up with the Murdochs and this gentleman and do a citizens-based appeal and a petition and proper verbiage that we would get from the county, all while we reach into spring and summer and the contractors do their thing, and if there continues to be successes, then come middle of the summer or the fall, then phase 3 could truly be better.
I'll say yes, but again, jumping into this program halfway, midstream, early on, and I wasn't part of the initial understanding, if you will. This is a lengthy process, as I understand it. 2 to 4 years, 2 to 3 years. You know, a lot of it is dependent on, or part of it, you know, we are bringing interest to the powers that be, the USDA, Eagle, and EPA. The other part of that equation is we have to have the funding available. You know, in 2025, we went through 2 shutdowns, and that really cobbled up the system. Although those monies were obtained, they were signed, it still slowed the program. So we bring to this interest by way of citizen-led initiative and these signed petitions, and we get to 50.1% or 51% or 70 or 75% as we enjoyed down here. And then we turn that over and start working with Steve Mann at USDA, I presume. And in the meantime, we are having to write a RFP, which is a request for proposal or request for bid, to go out and solicit from an engineering firm such as Performance. Hey, we need a preliminary engineering report and it has to include these items. Then we have to put that out for bid. And that's where that $35,000 comes in. Once that comes in and we award that contract, then they go out and do their work. Steve, maybe you can explain what's included in that PER. There's a lot of preliminary reports and surveys that are done.
You have to document what the issues are. And the ones for phase 1 and 2, we made sure there's a lot of photos and testimonials on people with the porta potties in their backyard and water in the ditches. And that. You have to lay out what's been done in the past, all of that. You have to lay out the financials on how the system is being managed now that's being financially responsible. Then you have to lay out multiple alternatives on what to do. You know, even though in this case it's pretty obvious, we already have 2 modules over there. We just want to put a third pair of modules over there. You still have to lay out the financials. What's the estimate to do that? What's the estimate to do this? What's the estimate to do something else? And you have to put all that in there. And physically, it's about half the size. It's probably about that thick with all the documentation reports. You have to get letters from the health department, letters from Eagle, and all that, explaining things. And unfortunately, we can't write the request for proposals for doing this because we would be a company that would be bidding on it. We can do this stuff for the contracts, but to actually do the PER work, we can't draft that for them.
It's not too early right now for people that live in what we're gonna call phase 30 to start doing what the church group did.
And that's the bottom line. You guys need to make sure your petitions are ready, that the language has been approved, so that there's gonna be no glitches. You're not gonna get 200 signatures and then find out, oh, well, that, you can't say that, or you missed this sentence or something like that. That needs to be done and be going.
And you just can't go out without, sending out, information to the community about what you're doing and what it entails and why you're doing it. I mean, there's a lot of that before you even get to petitions. These petitions are way down the road. And
Okay, so why wasn't this brought up to us when we asked about this before, like 6 months ago when I asked about this? And I was just kind of brushed off that phase 3 was just kind of out there. I mean, there was a petition was brought to us several years ago. I'm just asking a
No,
question.
I just want to, when you say petition,
That's what I'm saying.
um,
This is what we were told, this petition.
okay,
However, now we're learning that it was wrong.
not wrong.
No.
There's a petition. It probably looked like a petition that you see all the
Right,
time
but-
when you're, doing it for a political candidate or something like that. It probably looked like that.
Right.
But legally, it was not a
Exactly.
petition. It
So-
was just a,
How did,
expression of interest.
right, I understand that now. But my question is how did phase 3 kind of just stall and like nothing was handed over or nobody asked if phase 3 would like some information how to move forward?
I have to look back to see when Patty and Bob Murdock first approached me, and we
Okay.
were digging, literally digging for files, unsure what we were looking for.
So,
let me finish my
Okay.
statement. So
Then
what
I have
we
a question.
found
were those,
I'll call them interest
Okay.
surveys because that's what Steve Mann
Okay.
referred to them after he
And
received it by
what
email.
those done in these two areas
right.
too.
So my question was that, I guess so he's trying to move forward. What happened to the group that helped with getting everything down here then?
The letters of interest.
The letters of whatever we needed, how did that,
I'll refer to,
Once,
that was
once
before
it,
my time.
yeah,
okay. That's my question, I mean, where did everything how did it not proceed forward?
I can't
How did
answer
it
that.
just kind of stop there? How do
Well,
we now take this group and move us so that we can get moving? Because my canal is full of algae every spring from sewage leaking out of my,
Sure.
and we have to have, and we pay to have that cleaned and it doesn't work, I mean, it works for,
Going way back, so even before we were the phase 1 and phase 2, there were the interest surveys like all over, like Rainbow's End didn't want it. There were all these different spots that didn't want it. So they revised where was it gonna work, and it was here, because there wasn't enough.
I understand
These
that,
outline
but I'm
areas,
asking how do
you
you're
Where
work?
is
asking
that
how to
group?
organize.
where did that group dissolve? How
Well,
many years
once,
was it?
once you get to a certain point, once you turn in the actual legal petitions, where you have to have 51% of the
Right, I
land
understand
mass,
that.
not the RUs, not the people,
Right.
but the land mass. Then your work is done and it then becomes the purview of the township.
Which is then when we put out
So, yeah,
the request for bid on a PER, because that is also an expense, okay? And we have to be able to, with any project, if you've ever done any home project as an example, you have to front that money. Now, for this, as Patty, you indicated, in that $1 million additional grant, we have sectioned off $35,000.
Well, I understand, yes, I
But
understand
you
that.
still have to publish for request for forward.
here.
So I would say to the citizens, I can dig around for information on Chirk, but again, I don't know if you guys organized yourself, if the township helped you organize that. Again, before my time, I
That
don't
was a
know.
lot,
Okay.
There's a lot of.
So, you know, or get a hold of Patty and Bob Burdock, because they're hiring.
Yeah, that's been really patient, so.
Yeah, I'm losing. If phase three comes in,
Yeah.
is that water plant gonna be big enough, or is there gonna be more
Okay,
extensive stuff for down there?
well, you've alluded to that. Okay,
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna step out and get those interest surveys and
Okay.
the legal survey to show you that, okay. No, I understand.
How that, the surge tank that was put in between the old plant and the new plant that we just constructed, that's big enough to take equipment for phase three.
Okay, and that's with the new laundromat that's coming in and any other businesses that decide to come up here? There's still gonna be enough room?
Well, that's what the PER would establish, is when they set the boundaries, we would have to count how many connections there are, what type of connections, you know, house, duplex, house, apartment building, laundromat. And that's when we add up those RUs. And
Because I know you have a vacant lot over here, that eventually someday.
that's already accounted for in the original.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, when they do that, like even with phase one and phase two here, if there's vacant lots, we still account for that. That's, if it's,
Yeah, but if you account that as a business, they only have one toilet, but if you count that, if they decide to put up small condos, and there's 6 of them, it's not gonna be one REU. So you really can't count.
yeah, I don't know enough about the original phase zero to know how each of those lots was accounted for, whether or not.
Should we?
But-
Well,
No,
It's a good point, Beth, because.
it just seems like we don't have enough information, and we're kind of rolling dice, fingers crossed, and go forward.
That we've got enough to cover everything.
I don't want, I'm in phase 2, and I don't want a year from now, these guys touring, which I have no problem with you joining,
Right.
but, we gotta up your REUs, we gotta up this, we gotta up that, so we can get those guys hooked up, so we can fix their plant out there.
right.
We're fixing the plant now for my section, I don't wanna have to fix no more plant, sorry.
That's your point, that's your concern right now, right?
Yeah.
Right, and when they did for phase one and phase two, they counted up all the projections.
And we're off.
Well, Pinehurst was given 12. And then the 2 houses across the street were given 2. We have several duplexes, they were given 2. Most of them are residential lots, they were given 1. So there was no projections for any real commercial in phase 1 or for phase 2.
Yeah, but should you give like a little buffer, because you have no idea 10 years from now what's gonna happen to the Pinehurst. Say that completely goes down and they put up, bigger and more toilets and all that stuff. Well, in between, yes, in between is bigger.
Well-
6 or 9 condos.
Yeah. I mean, I'm terrified of that. That you guys keep, going and going, and I don't think you take into account or what ifs. And I think that needs to be started. What if?
I do believe that our township is gonna need a sewer committee or sewer authority. Brenda and I raised our kids down the state in a, maybe you look a big lake, recreational lake, in Kalamazoo County, and Bell Lake had sewer authority that had a board of people that lived in that area. I don't know completely how that works at all, but, that was also the board that established the RUs or whatever, and it would have been involved in like the planning commission. Other than that, that's like a little bit, I don't know, about how the future gets.
It has been discussed with several different individuals that are in different sewer authorities.
Absolutely. So that's something that will come to fruition here in our community.
How long did it take for Chirk from going out with the petitions and stuff? Was it like 2 years? Like, the process?
Oh,
Because
gosh.
I'm thinking you guys, if you start now, we haven't even, I'm gonna be lucky if it's by the end of next summer, if I get it.
Well, that's what I'm saying,
Next
we
year.
wanna move
You'll be
forward,
ready.
obviously, but we need to get started.
Yeah, but I
I just
think
wanna
we should.
know.
And I would say Patty and, what's his name?
Yeah, Bob, yeah, I'm
Would be-
surprised you're not here, maybe
That we could get people to spearhead that and get it going. But don't think it's just gonna happen.
Oh, no, we're
overnight.
not, we're not saying that, I don't think anybody thinks that.
No.
We just feel like everything just went, you know, we just stopped and there was no, and then we hear that, you know, no, they're not gonna even do it, and I'm like, well, and then, you know, I'm looking at the canals and the everything going, well, there's
Yeah, but
obviously.
at some point, don't you feel we have to get something done before we can
I
start
think
the
that's-
next
Well,
thing and the
But
next
it
thing?
takes so long, is my,
Right, no, go,
my
go
point.
for it.
Yeah,
Wait
my
till
point
you
was, it
finish
takes,
your-
and we know
Whatever
that,
you need.
you know, they gotta look
Don't
for
think
grant
you're
money,
gonna
they gotta
jump
for this, but,
Don't worry, Beth, they're not gonna get hooked up before you.
but no, just can't even
Go
get.
ahead, you hook them
Is
up.
there an expiration on that $35,000 expiration date? Like, how long does it sit there before we just say, you guys don't wanna use it, so we're gonna take it back?
These, what the EPA did, they made that $1 million a supplemental grant to the original 3.5 million, so it's tied to whatever the end date is on that. I'm guessing it's probably the end of next year.
We just extended that,
24.
No, you extended the Eagle.
yes.
Did you extend EPA?
Yeah.
Okay, but, yeah, if you, all you have to do is demonstrate to the agency that, yeah, we're not done with it yet. We're not just gonna sit on it forever, but we have more construction, or we're gonna be doing this planning next year. All you have to do is basically ask for an extension and they'll push it out.
So are we staying on top of that to make sure that the money doesn't expire?
Yes,
Well, they have to, or it's gonna expire for two.
I'm talking about
No,
$35,000.
it's
Yeah.
all one lump sum.
keep in mind, the 35,000,
One goes down, no.
yes, that is correct. Keep in mind, the 35 is part of the 1 million, the 1 million is supplemental to the
3.5.
3.5. They keep an eye on it every month. They just sent to us an email at the end of the year saying, hey, what is your target on this, on being completed? And there are various stages of completion. And we said, no, we're not ready. Because of the 2 shutdowns, the early onset of winter, we're looking at phase 1 and I think it was just phase 2, and we can keep extending that. Okay, we are in constant contact with these people.
Just asking, I don't
I
want
understand.
We won't let it spoil, so.
Yeah. I think this is interesting that, we found, with Chris's help, we dug through and found this file. Back in recap of the phase 3 sewer project, 2020, initial engineering study. 2020 to 2021, first petition drive, northwest side only.
Northwest side of the world.
Well, let's see. Northwest side of Indian River. Second petition effort, broader area. September of 2022, federal request. At that point, the board made a formal request to Congress. 2023, congressional appropriation. So I think this demonstrates to me, it is a slow process, it's tedious, it doesn't move in any way the speed with which any of us would like it to.
However, I just, again, get our feet on the ground, let's get going.
We'll figure out, we just want to figure out.
Here you go.
how to advance
Okay,
things.
perfect.
This is
Right now, we're not
the,
doing anything.
well, again, define we, because again, there's 2 ways to do this.
Right.
Citizen-driven, much more successful, evidenced here. It can be jammed down your throat, which is the terminology that the USDA used with me, highly unsuccessful. I think we are evidence of citizen-based, citizen-driven initiative.
The disputing any of this. And
Okay.
I'm not trying to argue with you, we're just trying to figure out how to
go.
get, because it doesn't seem like phase three is doing anything out. We have $35,000.
You need a person.
We need to get moving
Okay.
forward.
And there isn't anybody.
There is, again, Patty and Bob Murdoch. They have expressed it.
Okay.
We've met 3 different times with them. And again, I will ask their forgiveness for throwing their name out there without their permission.
And that's fine. I mean, if we can somehow all connect, that would be lovely. And maybe we can figure it out.
Where are you guys at?
We're on the snails.
Yeah, that's what I'm at. I'm on Bell Chase.
Just need
Yeah,
volunteers.
so are we.
You are?
Yeah,
How far down?
all the way to the end.
Okay.
If you guys have neighborhood, if you guys have neighborhood, like an appointed person in each neighborhood.
That was Jane, she did that over in phase 2, we did it a little different in phase 1,
That didn't work.
but it didn't work.
That didn't work.
And, I mean, it didn't work initially, it didn't work like she had planned, but it did work in some, she did some wonderful maps and did some things like that. She tried to set up, what she called block captains. That was less than successful because everybody was gone. So, and the block captains were gone. Everybody was, wherever they all went in the winter time. So that, but I mean, I wouldn't say it was a failure at all. Yeah, time, yeah.
I think you guys, with all that we've been through so far, everybody's got so much knowledge about all this now, which you
Yeah.
didn't then.
And
It doesn't
just,
seem like it should be as
but
hard.
you're gonna just need people that are just gonna have to look for people, just literally hunt for people. Find out where they are, find out where they go, and, that they might, some sort of spreadsheet, they might have 3 addresses.
And we can help with that.
Send out with
We can
that,
help with,
and you all can do all of that, that's all citizens, when we say citizens, that was just a bunch of people sitting around, having lunch, meeting for lunch, deciding what they're gonna do next, and then once that petition drive starts, it's just legwork. I mean, now it might be a little different down there than it was for us, because we had like the fact that everybody, all the people were snowbirds,
right,
and we had to find them in the middle of winter.
right. Well, and you all who live here year round, we will know who is here year round and who is not, and
And
we
that's
can help
unique,
with
you
the
sort of need a gang that's here to be able to pull that off.
Oh, yeah.
So these are the,
So the one on top is the legal
okay,
petition from Steve Mann, and if you look on the right-hand column, it'll say in here, and you see where it says north so many degrees by west, but that's what he talks about. That is what we have to get from the county. Now, did I not give you that? Maybe I didn't.
That would be a legal description of what
Oh,
you're covering.
And then the other thing that I want to give you, here's what I want. Let me make you 2 more copies. There's a legal description that I can give you, and then there's this, I'll give you a clean copy with a clean example, with an attachment that looks like a friendly, hi neighbors letter. This is what we're wanting to do. So let me give you copies of these, copies of this. And then,
We done for this then,
I
so
think we are, yeah.
we'll let all the torches and
Did
pitchforks.
anyone else, yeah, thank you. Anyone else have any questions for Steve? Any more technical?
I'm sticking around for the first part of the trustee meeting, but I'll be heading out after that. Hopefully before it gets below freezing.
Thank you.